So, I heard you're looking for a go-to source for entertainment.
Wait for it.
Gaming?
Wait for it.
Anime?
Plus Ultra!
Mr. Eric Almighty and Phil the Filipino? Yeah, they've got you covered. And all you gotta do is... wait for it. This is the Wait For It podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Wait For It podcast. I am your co-host, Phil Smith, aka Phil the Filipino. And joining me as always is your other co-host, Mr. Eric Almighty. And Eric, we're here the second week of the month, and we are with our international feature series. And last week, we did a show for Late to the Party, our movie, I should say, a rom-com, very grounded in reality, right? One of the things that we really enjoyed about that film is the mundane and the boring. We want completely opposite, a complete 180 for this month's international feature. This is a series that Eric has predominantly set up for us, as he has been the one to take leaps and take chances and find some films that obviously are out of our normal realm of comfortability, and throw them out there. And they've for the most part it's been a very successful series. We've enjoyed plenty of films. Well, this year it has been off to a little bit of a different start, as I have been the one to kind of take that leap and say, hey, what's out there? What can I find? And one of the things was Eric could never really find that like romantic comedy, more lighthearted. I mean, this isn't necessarily the most lighthearted thing because there's a lot that goes on, as we'll talk about here in a moment. But he never was really able to find that. It was all movies that just made me really sad. And this movie makes you sad for a different reason, as we are going to break down here in just a moment. Eric, I cannot tell you, I've been looking for somebody to speak to about this movie. And when you said, all right, let's commit to it, let's watch it, I was a little nervous. I was like, all right, this is like the first time I've ever recommended this type of film to you. So you're fresh off of your experience. It is fresh on your mind. And man, I cannot wait to talk about Hi, Nanna.
I usually start off talking about how excited I am to talk about a film. And it's not that I wasn't excited before, but man, this might be, we say it like it feels like every time we get to Memories of Murder, Banshees of Inisherin, RRR, right? Like, this is it. This is why we wanted to do this series, because it's just not on the radar. I didn't hear about this movie at all, Phil. This is a movie I don't ever hear anyone talk about, and it came out last year. So I was bummed when the credits rolled that I had not seen this film. As a spoiler alert, I absolutely am. I'm enthralled with this movie, and I'm so excited to jump into it. But we made this series, Phil, not just for us, but for other people to jump into international films. And for that reason, this episode you can expect to stay spoiler free till a certain point, because this movie goes balls to the walls in the last hour with twists and turns. And by the end, I was openly weeping. I honestly was just crying a lot. So I'm excited to jump into why that was, but we'll keep things pretty clean for the first half. And if you stop listening now, please go watch Hi, Nanna.
Yeah, it is insane just the world that RRR has opened us up to, because you just mentioned it. And, a couple of years ago, I didn't even know what Telugu was. I didn't know that it was its own language. I didn't know that it had its own subsect of film within Bollywood, like Bollywood, Tollywood. Didn't even know that these things existed. And who knows what other gems, we are going to find this year. But Eric, let's jump right into this thing because we have so much to discuss. And as always, we will start with a IMDb synopsis. And this film is available on Netflix. It is 2.5 hours long, so it is a longer film. A single father begins to narrate the story of the missing mother to his child, and nothing remains the same. And this is a film that is mostly in subtitles, but there is some English in the film as well. So it's not, there are moments sprinkled in that are a little bit easier to follow because there is a very dialogue heavy movie. There's a lot going on. Eric, I'm going to hand it over to you first because, again, you are fresh off this. Emotions are running high. Eric never texts me unless something really just mind-blowing happens while he's watching a film. And I just kept getting text after text after text. And again, I have never been more validated in my feelings about a piece of artwork than I have been after today. So Eric, again, you're fresh off your experience. I'll just let you kind of kick it off wherever you want with Hi Nanna.
So I don't want to say that this movie does a 180 because it's not that drastic, but that first hour it's setting the stage. And Phil, for the movie, I thought it was trying to, for the story I was trying to tell, and for the movie, I thought it was. I thought we were kind of playing by the numbers a little bit. Like, it was good, but nothing revolutionary is maybe not the word, but nothing too out there. And then the first twist happens, which I did not see coming. Did not see it coming. And I just thought it was so clever. That's really, this movie has a charm about the way that they do these things. And they're over the top, like reveals, but they feel natural within the storytelling medium that's being told. And I just loved that aspect of it. It should also be mentioned that, Phil, I learned very early on, and as the movie continued, I loved all the characters in this movie. Like, there was never, I hated the characters I was supposed to hate, loved the characters I was supposed to love. It just really started to flow nicely. And at the end of the day, this is a story about a father, his daughter, and, this mystery around the mother. Like, all those elements combined absolutely worked for me. And by the end, again, cannot express wiping away tears. Literally just this ugly cry the entire way, but in a good way. Like, it was a good cry. Like, I needed it in my soul type of cry.
And let me tell you something, Eric. I stopped the movie after the first song because I didn't know if I was going to enjoy this. So I literally had backed out and I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to commit to this. I saw the trailer. I was like, I'm going to watch it. And you know what? If I think it's something that Eric won't enjoy, then, so be it. I still will have broadened my horizons by watching a film that, again, is out of my comfort zone. And I'm so glad that I did because, like you said, the twists and turns that this story takes and the charming nature of all the characters. Obviously, any character or any movie that has a father-daughter dynamic, I'm going to have a soft spot for just because I have that relationship with my daughter. So that's already going to be like an easy in for me. It's something that's I easily relate to. But again, as it's going to be difficult to navigate this because I don't want to say all of the story is, again, the twists and turns, but like when that does happen, when we do make that shift in gear to the reveal, that's when everything really starts to take off. Because again, like you said, it does take its time in setting everything up. It's a very, very long film. And I think that is something that we are just learning with these Telugu films is, they don't care about runtime. We got a story to tell. The deleted scenes are not a thing, it seems like, here with these types of films. And I think what I'm finding, Eric, is like, we're big wrestling fans, and a lot of people compare wrestling to a male soap opera. Telugu films seem just like epic soap operas is what we have come to find with these films that we have watched now. Bahubali, obviously another one that we watched a couple of years ago or last year, whichever it was. And that's how I'm now going to approach these because, again, I, in the beginning, thought that I was not really going to enjoy this just because there was a little bit of strange pacing all over the place. There's the very long intro where they're just kind of introducing the daughter and the father relationship. And then it cuts into the song where he's singing about, this woman. And I was like, oh man, I don't know if this is going to be for me. But again, glad that I had decided to stick to it. And here we are now talking about an experience that is going to sit with us for ever, probably.
Yeah. And the thing about it too is the performances are great, but so are like a lot of things with these movies are like the lighting, the directing, not only the twists and the turns, but again, all of those film elements. Like, the performances are great. I want to definitely talk about our main two lead characters. We could talk about all of them. And you could argue main three characters we'll probably highlight here in the spoiler-free section, but the movie is just beautifully done. It's just it's an expertly crafted movie. And Phil, I'll tell you this. this movie got me at the halfway point. I'm glad you stuck with it because I literally paused my television. I went downstairs. You know how you had that urge to go get popcorn?
Yesterday?
I wanted movie theater popcorn, and I didn't have the time to go get it. So I got some candy, I got a drink, and I came up here like I was in the theaters. I would have given anything to see this movie in theaters. And as a kind of spoiler-ish to what my rating will be for this movie, it's going to be pretty high because this is an experience movie. You know, if I want to bring a friend along, it's going to be a high rating. So that's where I'm at with Hi Nanna. I didn't see it coming. Cannot believe I missed this gem in 2023. But the filmmaking was great. The performances were great. Everything about it just fantastic.
I think that's a good point because, again, now that you can watch this film at home, it is a film that I think would very much lend itself to a group watch and put an intermission in there. So when you find out like what the twist is, let everybody take a break, process what's happening, because again, you have no idea what is coming down the pipeline. Because when it happens, it's like, oh, well, that's it. We're done with surprises. Nope, that's not the case whatsoever. And they even throw in multiple at the end, where it's just like, what is happening? So yeah,
by the end, the cries were like an overwhelming cry. Like, you know, when you've been overstimulated, that's the type of cry I had. My body had to like let it out somewhere.
Yeah, so this is again just going to continue to open doors for us, I think, and finding obviously with RRR and Bahubali very action heavy, and this was not. This was focused on the story, focused on the emotions, focused on the relationships, and man, I told you this before we got started. Like, I was so desperate to talk to somebody about it that I explained the entire plot to my sister afterwards. It took like 30 minutes, and I kept forgetting shit because there's so much that happens.
I'm really upset with you about that.
I asked her, I was like, "Listen, are you ever going to watch this movie?" And she said, "Probably not." So I just had to talk.
That's your fault that you'll never watch it. It's your fault.
I know.
You should have just told me to watch it that day, because I'll tell you this. I was genuinely concerned why you wanted me to watch it. Because when I asked you if it was good, your text response was, well, I just need to see if you're going to react the same way I did. Like,
because it's a wild ride, dude. I get
it, but you didn't like, you know how I told you RRR was fantastic. If by the dance scene, if you don't like it, you're not going to enjoy the movie. By the middle of this movie, by the twist, if you're not in, it's not for you.
Yeah, you're not going to be in. And that's an hour and like 15 minutes of your time. So
yeah,
it's an ask. You know, I totally get it. Like, we have kind of kicked off these last few months by watching really long films. And you know what? If something can, hold your attention for that long, then more power to it. So I hope that people come away from us just gushing about it to head to Netflix and, again, put in the time, even if you want to break it up between a couple of nights. I know sometimes people do that. I don't know how people start a movie and don't finish it. That's not me. That's not a thing that I can do. But, watch it with some other people and just enjoy some of the silliness. Like, obviously the music is just part of this culture. And, we'll talk about that as far as varying levels of success. I am interested to see how you felt about some of the music. But again, it is a fantastic ride. And Eric, like you said, highlighting some of these performances, our three leads. I think it is fair to say that there are three leads in this film, and they are all excellent. The chemistry, you would think that they're a real family, and they are obviously the heart and soul of the film. Goes without saying, if even part of the chemistry is off with any of them in this triangle, it doesn't work. And that's why it's able to keep you invested and wanting more pretty much right out of the gate as soon as the third character is introduced and you meet them right then and there. I guess I think most people should be hooked.
No, I agree. And I definitely want to shout them out. Gonna definitely mispronounce some names here, especially one in particular. But the lead actor, Nani, who I had never heard of before or seen, and this goes for all three of them, starts with an M. I feel like it's silent, so it's like Runal Thakur. She was fantastic. She's an absolute gem, an absolute star, stunning, absolutely in love with her. And Kiara Khanna, who plays the daughter, I thought did a great job, like a wholesome daughter performance. She was really sweet. She was that cute, like, oh my God type of daughter, like that you see in your typical movies. But all three of them bring something special to this. Again, by the end, I'm weeping. So I can't wait to talk about that. And I feel, Phil, before we get into that, for those of us that are sticking around just for a spoiler-free conversation, let's talk a little bit about not only how this movie was received, but if we were to go back in 2023, I don't know if you've thought about this. I'm assuming you ranked it. Where would Hi Nanna have fallen? I think you're going to be shocked at my answer. So I'd love to know the reception and then our ratings before we jump to spoilers.
I didn't even think about as far as like last year. I didn't even consider that. Oh my God.
I added it to my list for last year. The second I was done watching, I knew exactly where it would fall. And I'm going to be honest with you. I have a hot take if I watch it a second time where it might end up. So
yeah. Well, as far as how critics have received this, there are not a whole lot of reviews. Now, this is out of 7 critics reviews, but it's at 100%. So listen, I assume that these 7 critics are people that specialize in this type of film. Okay, I haven't gone in and looked. All I know is that it says 100% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 95% audience score with 100 plus reviews. And then as far as the Letterboxd score, the Letterboxd average is a 3.5. So, take that for what it's worth. There'll probably be some people on there that maybe don't watch this type of film, or also people that are very familiar with this type of work. So I'll just leave that there for, again, what it's worth. Man, I'm looking at my list here, Eric. I guess should we go over what we gave it as far as grade first?
Yeah, I would love to know what you graded it. I think I went higher than you.
I think you did as well. Sure. I think you did as well. I gave it a 4. And that is because I wasn't this is probably not fair, but I was not as hooked to the music as I was for an RRR. And if you're going to have these big dance sequences and, it's obviously part of this type of film, then I want to go back and I want to hear music that I want to listen to over and over again. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't really gone back and listened to the music from Hi Nanna. And whether that's fair or not, maybe or maybe not. But I feel like the music is a focus. I feel like that is intentional to progress parts of the story and to also tell portions of the character's feelings. Obviously, the one in the beginning is probably the most important one. So I gave it a 4, but I think it probably would have gone higher if I was, again, infatuated with the music like I was with RRR.
Yeah. No, I actually agree with you. I think you just grade it harsher, which makes sense. It's kind of the difference in our scales. I'm a little more generous. You're a little harsher in some places. I gave it a 4.5. And I didn't just give it a 4.5. You know what that means if you remember the end of the year awards. That jumped to number 3 of movies in 2023. And I'm going to be honest with you, Phil. I wanted to give it a 5. I wanted to give it a 5 so bad, but the music is just okay. There are 2 songs specifically that I really like that will be on the playlist that we have on Spotify each week, updated on Mondays. But, the music is just fine. You mentioned some of the pacing at the beginning. I'm curious how I'd feel about that knowing what I know now.
Sure.
And the buildup, for sure. So I definitely got to firm that up with a second rewatch. I already told my wife we're watching it. This is a 4.5 because it's not just a movie that I would bring a friend with. I think I'm going to be obsessively annoying to recommend it. And 4.5s or up are where that movie fits the bill. So that's where it sits for me. And really,
that could change for me like it does with you. Yeah. If I watch it again, which I plan on watching it again, that could change to
I don't see it going. I don't see it going down.
I think it's at least a 4.25 again at Letterboxd.
Please.
It's never going to happen, but we can keep complaining. So, yeah, I think I could easily give it a 4.25. But, yeah, with the music being with me not coming away having those songs stuck in my head the way that I did with RRR, which, again, is my only point of reference when it comes to films like this, then that's why it is where it is. It is currently tied for... Go ahead.
the dance number song is just okay. Like they do have one big dance number.
Yeah,
I can accept it because that's like
I wasn't a big fan of that
Bollywood.
one. I wasn't a
I
big
didn't
fan
like
of that one. That was the
I
one on
didn't
the
like
beach.
it that much. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
like it that much. They had like some, I guess, really famous singer or celebrity there.
I figured that's who that
pop up.
was. I was like, where did this person come
You pull her up in IMDb. She's like the first person that pulls up on the cast, which makes no sense.
Oh, okay.
So, but she must be
Shruti
really
Hassan.
popular. Yeah, so it must be
Okay.
really popular. But I will just say that that's definitely something that that I wanted to call out.
Yeah. So that's where we land as far as our scores. Eric, anything else you want to mention before we get to the spoiler portion? Because again, we're going to be talking pretty heavily about the twists and the turns of this film very openly, because I have to talk to somebody about it. We're not driving to Ocala together, so we have to talk about it right now.
Yeah. No, bring a friend is all I can tell you. Bring a friend, a loved one, whoever you got to bring. Phil was just talking about it. I was so excited. I was giddy for this episode to talk about it. I just saw it earlier today. I wanted it to be fresh on my mind for this episode. I knew Phil had watched it a few weeks ago. I wish I had watched it a few weeks ago so I could have seen it a second time. And to be honest, I probably would have watched it a second time had I seen it when you saw it. So that's my glowing review of it. Phil, this movie would have ended up in both of our top 10s. I just said it was in my top 5 if we had redone it today. So cannot express how much you should watch this movie. And I really, really implore you, if you have not seen the movie, please go watch it and do not move forward, because now we are going to jump into spoilers, full on spoilers. It's going to be a little lengthy because we are going to talk about the rest of this movie after that midway point in quite a bit of length. So this has been your warning. Maybe Phil will put a graphic on the screen.
Get the hell out! Get out! Get out! Get out!
Okay.
Get out! Get out!
Yeah.
But you've been warned.
Go watch, please. Please.
Audio listeners, you've been warned.
Please go watch the movie.
Visually, we're going to try to help you out, but you heard me, right?
Please.
Yes.
Please go watch it before listening to this portion. Because, so just to jump right to it, I kept wondering, because again, I watched the trailer before, and that's when I had messaged you. I was like, hey, I think I found something that might fit February as far as our themes go. And I kept wondering, how is this woman going to fit in? First off, I love the idea that when he tells her stories, she has to imagine people from her real life. Absolutely love that. It's a really smart storytelling.
It's so smart. It's so smart.
It was so clever.
My dumbass did not catch it. Because when he's looking at the picture after they've gone their separate ways from the story, when he's looking at the picture, I'm like, well, that's weird. They didn't really fix that.
Why is it still her?
And I kind of tuned out for a second. I had to rewind, like, wait a minute.
Did I miss something? Yeah. So super smart storytelling mechanic there. And again, you're fast forwarding. So I am, the song happens and I'm like, okay, I'm going to commit to this. And then you get to it. And then they, tells the whole story. And obviously the story is getting, sadder and sadder as it goes. And you can just tell that something's not like off about how he says the story is ended. Like she just bailed, like she just left. That doesn't make any sense. Like for the sake of her career or whatever. And then, he tells her that there was an accident and that
very
happened.
strongly implies she's dead.
Yes, exactly.
And you kind of buy into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because why would he want to end the story like that with her? She's already upset.
And I remember what it was. They showed, when they do that, they show like a scar. After he had seen the picture, he showed the picture, and I was like, why'd they do that? I saw the scar, and I was like, no, she's not.
Yeah.
No, she's not alive.
And the moment that really, really hit me was the dog. So when he tells the dog, why did you do this? First off, and this is very prevalent in a lot of the reviews on Letterboxd, is that this dog, I can't remember the dog's name right now because again, it's been a few weeks since I watched it.
It starts with a P. I was just watching it.
Pluto. This dog has a whole arc. This dog has an entire side quest to itself, and it is fantastic. You grow with the dog. You learn to love the dog. The dog's fantastic.
The dog's tied into the daughter's name.
You're worried about the dog.
So good.
So when the dog, has led them back to her, and I'm like, oh shit, this is like, and then we kick into gear right away.
Yeah.
Obviously she doesn't stay away, and I'm like, oh my God, this is all gonna blow up in his face. There's absolutely no way he's gonna be able to hold this together. And again, for some of the other themes we'll get back to on the beach, one of the moments where the dad is talking to, we're getting ahead. I can't I can't skip this far ahead, but we'll take back to that moment, Eric. You already talked about it a little bit, but again, the reveal that she is the mother, and they found each other again.
I think the best way to do this is to just reenact the text messages. I feel like that's because I was all caps for the rest of the movie. My exact words.
Yeah.
Hey, yo, what the fuck is this twist? I'm halfway through Hi Nana. And then I said I literally was like, this movie is 2.5 hours and now I understand. And then minutes later, oh my fucking God, that's why the dog was running. Are you fucking kidding me? I said fuck a lot because I was so pissed. That absolutely crazy. I was right there with you. I was like, the damn dog. You gotta be kidding me. So I was floored. But Phil, I want us to kind of pause here before we get to the rest of the stuff, because we didn't really talk about the daughter's illness in the spoiler-free section.
Right.
Huge part of the movie.
What did she call it? What was her adorable name for it?
65 Roses.
65 Roses.
So
cute.
And I think, and I'm gonna look up what the actual illness was.
Cystic fibrosis.
There we go, 65 Roses.
Yeah.
So that was what it was. They reveal that was adorable, but it was also kind of sad because they did focus on it a lot at the beginning of the movie, and it played such a major part by the end, which we'll get to. And as a parent, not getting too much into it, but not only that, but then the postpartum depression that she feels as a mother after everything they went through. Without getting too deep into it, I personally related to a lot of that. I personally related to that experience of being in the hospital and going through all that stuff. So for me as a parent, already in shambles. So it was really, really tough. And I just think the way they handled it was so nice. I want to come back to this point, but they really focus on love isn't real and finding that love. And it's almost a film of second chances. It is a film about second chances. I love how from that moment, everything just unfolds till we get to the end game. And I think it was done perfectly.
Yeah, it was, like you said, kind of going through that process and their courtship and, learning more about them. And let's not beat around the bush here, because you can kind of make the argument, and some people were making the argument in some of the reviews as far as Virage, what's the word that I'm looking for? Kind of, manipulating is a little bit too harsh of a word here, but it's not what she wanted, and look where they are now. They don't stray away from those themes. They don't stray away from the difficult conversation. And, maybe that's just a form of storytelling, again, that's just very, very prevalent within these Telugu films. And I appreciate them for that. So there are, just elements of the not most healthy relationship, right? They say things to each other that are just awful, that are simply terrible. And then they lead to other things that if, maybe A didn't happen, then B never happens. You know what I mean? So I appreciate them for really leaning into those themes and not shying away from it whatsoever. But because it just kind of, it makes for more compelling and heavy storytelling, which is not something that I had expected to feel when I watched what I thought was going to be a lighthearted rom-com and not end up being that whatsoever.
No, I was like, what is happening here, dude? I was like, no. And again, no clue where the second half was going. And even when I thought I knew, I did not know.
No, not at all. So, and you think that you're just following a man, his daughter, and their grandfather through, her illness, and you see him, in this montage in the beginning. I think that is one of the things that, like I said, kind of early on, that I guess was, as far as pacing, I was like, this is a long montage. It went on for a long time, setting up this relationship and the life that he lives and staying up and talking with doctors and everything. And again, now that I'm able to look at it fully as a complete story, I'm like, okay, I understand this now, because I don't think everything that happens later doesn't mean as much if they don't set that up in the beginning and take their time doing so. And you know what? Shame on me for wanting to rush through it, and kudos to them for pulling it off.
Yeah, 100%. And, the mom being like the villain of the movie was, ideal. You had to have someone to hate. I hated her. Man, I hated her so much.
Yeah, she sucked. Oh, God.
She sucked a lot. But this movie just did such a great job. Again, she just can't stay away. And even though you kind of get slightly introduced to the fiance to be, husband to be, her fiance,
handsome man,
handsome man, but she just leaves. She just leaves and goes there, and in a way falls in love with him again. It felt organic,
right.
Knowing that she lost her memories and she doesn't remember anything, but she has just that natural love, that feeling of we're meant to be together. And I'm a huge fan of the movie Your Name, and you already know how I feel. It's those strong ties of love for me. I'm such a sap for them. I'm such a sap for them. I cry and I feel emotionally tied to it because it's just pure love. And I just did not see that in this film within the first hour. I was like, oh, this is cute. They have really good chemistry. I bet he'll have chemistry with her in the second half because she's very similar and she's taking the place of the mother. But then when you learn they're the same person, it just takes this foundation and builds on it. Where at the halfway point, I thought we were kind of starting over with this new woman. And I'm like, oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they really do fit in. She's kind of like three characters all in one film. She's the stranger. She is the woman she used to be, and then she is the woman that has found her way back to them. And that's the moment, Eric, that there are plenty of moments that really hit me hard. But the one where the dad, is revealed later that is her dad, and I was like, "Are you?"
Another text to you. It was one of those moments where I was like, "Why is he here?" I was like, "That's weird."
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, how do you get? And I also I was thinking too. I was like, "How do you get here so fast?"
How do you know where she was?
But the daughter had called her dad.
Yep.
Earlier on, which makes sense. So when he shows up, I literally immediately grabbed you. I was like, the fucking dad was with them the whole time. Are you serious? This movie just continued to throw curveballs, and that wasn't even it.
That wasn't even the last one. But that's the moment.
Is the biggest one because there's so much tied behind it, and that's when I broke. Because the dad's monologue, and maybe
that's
we're
what got
a little too ahead.
That's what got me when he said if they find their way back to each other, who are we to keep them apart? And I was like, that's right. You're right.
You tell her.
You tell her that.
I'm glad you divorced her.
She sucked, man. God, she was so awful. But worst. For him to stick around, for a character I loved already, who was already one of my favorites, for him to stick around through that and, I don't want to say choose his side. Obviously, he's still in her life in some ways, not the way that she wants him to be. But for him to stay by his side because he knew he was a good man, and also because he loved his granddaughter, and she knew that her mother, that his ex-wife, had lied. I think to have that kind of character of just has an incredible moral compass amongst a bunch of other characters that have incredible moral compasses was so insane. I couldn't believe that.
When they revealed that she lied about the divorce, I was like, you fucking bitch, dude. I was so angry. I was so mad.
Yeah. So, man, because obviously the way that RRR is told, you learn different things in each section of the story. And I think that's just one of my... If this is a constant throughout these types of films, we have to watch more. We gotta keep watching these. I can't understand how we have been deprived of this type of storytelling that is just so crazy at moments that I'm like, I gotta watch more of these. I can't.
I thought it was a style over substance thing, and it's not. It just isn't. And, especially, we can't speak to all Bollywood. Telugu's a little different.
Yeah, we watched three.
We want to be sensitive to that.
As experts.
No. We also don't want to just tie it to just traditional Bollywood because we do understand there is a difference. But for these type of films, Like I didn't know they were capable of this, to be honest. Like I thought there was kind of a ceiling. And Phil, like again, I'm enthralled with this movie. I absolutely adore this movie. I'm going to talk about this obnoxiously to people for so long. And RRR is one of my favorite films I've ever watched, you know? So like the bar is so high already. I know we'll find some disappointing ones, but these are two recent examples, and I do think we need to start taking that medium seriously, Phil. You talked about this several times. We're seeing more theatrical releases of Telugu films in theaters, and you and me have kind of looked at each other like, should we check this
should
out?
we go see this? Yeah, there's like
I don't know.
There's basically a Telugu John Wick series going on right now that I'm like, we should maybe watch this.
Maybe check it out. Check it out. But yeah, we we're kind of towards the end of the story and everything. Everything gets revealed. The reveal to the daughter, heartbreaking. We get that badass moment where he turns the chair around and he's like, I can ruin your fucking life.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Now. Flips the table.
Oh, I was like, let's go.
The guy, even like, and here's where I really appreciated this fiance, because none of his feelings were out of line. Like I could understand why he even stopped the ass kicking, right? He even stepped in and made sure that stopped, and he stopped him, other people from intervening when he went up to the mother, and all of those things I think make for whenever a quote unquote villain, because that's obviously who he's supposed to be, because he's standing in the way of the two people that are supposed to be together. Whenever they are more complex than I don't like you because you're trying to steal my woman, I love that trope. I don't care how often it is done. Whenever you have layered characters that you assume is just going to be a bad person or a villain, I don't care. Sign me up for it every single time. Because layered characters for the win. Give it to me.
For the win, yeah. And that ending, as we kind of get to that part, man, Phil, I was breathless. I was texting.
She's dying.
I was like, all right,
kidding me.
They're gonna get back together, and it's not just that they saved her, right? And I don't know if you looked at it in this way, but it was like really obvious, to me. The only way she's able to be saved is because the man that she's about to marry, who she leaves at the altar, is a doctor, and all of his fucking doctor friends and family are there. Yep. And the issue is
just kicked the shit out of her dad.
That just kicked the shit out of her dad. And literally the only reason this happens, this surgery that has literally less than 1% chance of this child surviving, is because of everything that's happened. The mother getting into the accident, the father choosing to keep the daughter away, them reconnecting basically by chance. When they did, and everything that led up to the wedding day, for all those people to be in that place, overwhelming. All of those thoughts came crashing. I was like, there's no way all of the dots were connected to now.
Because he was her doctor after the accident, and it was
all
crazy.
Done so well. So when they're all just one by one showing up, I just started crying, dude. I was already holding back tears during the dad speech, and then they just kept adding little wrinkles, them connecting, then the doctor showing up, then the daughter gets saved, and they're showing her singing at the end.
Yeah, she's in the beginning of the movie singing. I believe that's her, right? Singing?
I did not catch that, if that's the case.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's her singing.
Fuck. I can't wait to watch this movie again.
Yeah, and again, the fiance had just had that moment where he's like, go, like she can't love me if she still loves him. Again,
loves him.
Everybody in this movie seems to be an adult except for the mother. I don't understand.
Except for the mother.
Everyone has grown up and is mature except for her. She is awful.
The main character's brother, the main character's the other main character's sister. Their minimal roles. Like, Phil, I loved every character that was introduced here and how they played to be part of this story. So yeah. That's what did it at the end for me, was just everything tying into a neat bow, almost like a form of destiny that had all of these heartbreaking, tragic, painful things not happened, they wouldn't have been able to save their daughter, is basically the moral of that story to me in a nutshell. And again, as a parent And with what I mentioned earlier, absolute tears, absolute just
Yeah.
waterfall from my face.
There is a film, I believe, that won the Academy Award for Best Picture back in the early 2000s. It's called Crash. And it's pretty heavily criticized because it's not really that good of a movie. And it won Best Picture. I don't know if you've ever seen Crash, Eric. Have you seen it?
I know for a fact that we own the DVD at one point, and I have seen it. Do I remember it? I do not.
Right. So it's one of those movies where everything comes together and it's revealed that, all this racist cop is saving the black lady. And it's like supposed to be this big reveal, like, we're all connected. And it's a shit film. I don't know why it won Best Picture. This is the example of a film that really is tying everything together and pulling it off so masterfully. And I'm just so glad that I stumbled across it again. I can't even remember how it happened. I think I probably saw, like, I was just scrolling through Netflix and probably saw, just like the image of it, and I Googled it because we're always looking for new films to watch, and took a chance. So I am just happy that I have now repaid you for RRR because you did bring that into my life. So I have now introduced this to you.
I will tell you this now. I never expected you to bring up a film that I would openly weep to. So we're even. I'll say it's close enough that we're even, which is crazy on first watch. I'm telling you, Phil, I may just say fuck it and give it a 5 just because I can't give it a 4.75. I'm telling you, this movie at its peak is probably a 4.75. I don't think it'll ever realistically get to 5, but just to spite Letterboxd, I might do it after like three or four viewings. And I will probably see this movie at least 3 to 4 times. I would love to have movie nights with friends. And again, this is going to be a movie where you watch for people's reactions as well. And then this is, obviously this is one that's going to have, it presents itself in the beginning as a pretty, I don't want to say cookie cutter, but by the numbers. I think that's what you said earlier. It was running by the numbers and then you get to that moment where everything changes. So yeah, and it's not a perfect film. We did talk about a couple things. One thing I almost completely forgot to mention, I don't know if you had this issue. Again, I've only seen it once, so maybe it was my setup. But when the music played, the music was a little too loud. And it didn't
on the beach for sure it was way too loud.
Right. It didn't feel like it fit within the film. It felt like it was blaring. Mm-hmm. Right. So a lot of it was like a music
video. It didn't feel like it felt like a music video that was inserted. So I'd be curious to see if maybe that's a music video that they literally put into the movie.
Probably.
For that pop
I think that's a traditional thing. Yeah. To do. Yeah. So a lot of these films have at least one dance number for that reason. So yeah, no, I'm just, again, a throwaway nitpick. It didn't take me out of the film completely, but I did notice it. And again, just absolutely love this movie.
Man,
I'm again right now. I kind of want to watch it now instead of getting on to play.
This is one thing. I guess this is kind of one of the funny things. Remember in the beginning when they first meet, and the guy is like, he's like apologizing for his friend, and then he's like, the main character's like, I love you. And he's like, I'm sorry. and then he walks.
He's like, he's shown his true colors. I'm so sorry. Report him
to the police if you'd like. Sorry. That's right. And walks off with the dog. Yeah.
So good.
There's a lot of funny moments in this too.
You'd argue it's a rom-com if it wasn't so tear-jerkingly painful to watch.
Yeah, it's a rom-com. It's a drama. Listen, remember you said RRR has every single genre of film. This has multiple genres of film.
I'd say everything under the romance umbrella, they did it.
Yeah, and that's why I think that, now I will view these movies through the lens of a soap opera. Just a really big, extravagant soap opera is how I'm going to go into these, and I'll be a better person for it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much talked about everything we can from this movie. Again, this, from what I'm seeing, is also the directorial debut of somebody, obviously in the Telugu market. So I'm gonna keep an eye on this as well, because maybe there's something here. So something to keep an eye on: the actors, the actresses, the director, but just the medium in general, guys. If you've made it to the end of this episode, go watch the movie, but also give some Telugu films a chance. Like, especially more recently, like I mentioned, I think they are starting to make a mark. And yes, I only have like 2 huge examples of it, but that's more than enough for me. I've seen enough movies in other genres, other mediums where I've seen enough. You know, Phil's that way right now with Studio Ghibli, where he's like, I don't know if this is for me. But that doesn't mean
through. I mean, at least like I'm appealing myself to this market, even though I have totally like, you know, just alienated the Studio Ghibli market. So I'll take it. It's fine. I'll take the Telugu market.
But we'll come back. We'll come back to it at some point. We'll find something for Phil.
Sure.
There, but I'm confident we got to find at least one. It'd be a damn shame if we watch. Like, I do think after
like
about
the whole
5
collection.
I think if we got to 5, you would stop. So I do have to be very.
I think
careful.
if I get to 3, I'll stop. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. If the next one if I don't enjoy the next one, which I'm not going to tell anybody about, by the way, we're not going to do an episode on it. If I don't enjoy the film, we're gonna
announce it in advance. In fact, it will be coming up eventually, thanks to one of our patrons. But before we talk about all that, Phil, if you want to kind of wrap up this episode, let everyone know where they can find us. We'll kind of close this one out. And guys, if you like this specifically international feature, again, it's a monthly episode. If you're new to the show, we've got a lot more to look forward to in an entire catalog. So, Phil, let everybody know where they can find that.
Yeah, we have watched a new international film, well, new to us, pretty much dating back to, I think, the end of 2022. So the middle of 2022, maybe even. So if you enjoyed this series and you're looking for more films and you want to broaden your horizons, just like we have, make sure to check the Linktree link in the show notes. You'll find a library of all international features, as well as the rest of our episodes. Also in there, you will find our social media pages, the most important ones to keep up with being Instagram, TikTok, as well as our Discord page. If you want to support the show, you can do this a couple of ways. If you listen to this show for the first time after meeting us at Brick City Anime Festival, please reach out to us and we'll send you something. If you listen to like a 45-minute episode is the very first episode that you ever listened to, or if you watched Hi Nanna because of this, please let us know and we'll get you like a pin or something. Like we'll figure out a way to get you something. But you can do a couple of things. You can tag us on social media. Let us know that you're listening. Let other people know that you are listening. A like, a share, a subscribe, all of that goes a very, very long way. And if you want to support us on your podcasting app, such as Spotify or Apple Podcasts, leave us those 5-star reviews. And that is a big, big way to support the show. It helps drive us up the charts, as well as gets us a little bit more exposure. But if you find yourself wanting to maybe monetarily support the podcast, as well as join a really, really great growing community here with the podcast, Eric will let you know how you can do that.
There's a lot of free options, guys, like our socials that Phil mentioned. We also have a growing Discord platform, and we do have many other ways that you can get in contact with us. But if you want to support the show a little bit more, you can support us directly on our website through Buzzsprout, or you can take those funds and move on over to Patreon, where patrons like Stefan and Breyer are keeping the show going, supporting us, and getting in return exclusive behind-the-scenes access, early access, and more to episodes like this. And we're hoping to really build that content as that platform grows. You want a little sneak peek? You can even join it for free. And everything else that you can do, the likes, the shares, the comments, cost you nothing. So if you're doing it, we truly appreciate it. If you've made it this far, we truly appreciate it. And if you saw us at Brick City Anime Festival, which is right before this episode releases, we appreciate you saying hi, coming by, and bringing the vibes, because you guys keep us going for events like that one. But with that being said, my name is Mr. Eric Almighty. That is my co-host, Phil the Filipino. And please don't forget, we release new episodes every Wednesday on the podcast with bonus content on platforms like TikTok. And all you got to do is wait for it.
So, I heard you're looking for a go-to source for entertainment.
Wait for it.
Gaming?
Wait for it.
Anime?
Plus Ultra!
Mr. Eric Almighty and Phil the Filipino? Yeah, they've got you covered. And all you gotta do is wait for it. This is the Wait For It podcast.